fraud and deception. How they disgust Goat versus Fish, how Goat versus Fish reviles those who would use the fair name of Goat versus Fish to achieve their own greedy ends, to take the hard labors of Goat versus Fish, and with forgery and fakery, deceive you. Deceive the sweet waters of the fish. Deceive the mountains of the goat. All goat and fish are subject to their despicable whims as they try to grift off of the gift that is Goat versus Fish. They want it all. They're coming for you, and your only defense is to remain vigilant and choose goat or fish. Yes, it's true. There are those who have made Goat versus Fish a victim. Oh, the victimhood of Goat versus Fish. Oh, what they have done to Goat versus Fish. Oh, how they try to bilk Goat versus Fish. Yes, yes, they try to do it to me. They try to do it to me, little creepy 6098. They want what Goat versus Fish has. They want what Goat versus Fish doesn't have. They want everything from Goat versus Fish because they cannot make it on their own. Here, Goat versus Fish, in the humble congregation of Goat versus Fish, where all of you come to support Goat versus Fish, they would take your support and make it cruel sport for their own Peasley ends. Yes, yes. Are you goat or are you fish? Does the fence never end? Does the fence never end? Here in Fence America, some say Goat versus Fish is a scam, but I am what I am. Eventually, Gold, yes, they try to bilk Goat versus Fish. They try to sham Goat versus Fish. They try to scam Goat versus Fish. They try to make you pay. They try to make you pay. Yes, Goat versus Fish. We want to know if you say if you are goat or fish. But some fence sitters. Yes, yes, they have no regard for the virtues of the verses. And they want nothing more than to steal, but to steal from Goat versus Fish, but to steal from Goat, but to steal from Fish. Yes, these petty fence creatures, yes, they want to take it all from you. They want to take it all from you. Your precious information, your precious information. What information do you covet? How about if you have chosen goat or fish? What about who you are? What about your credit cards? What about your banking information? What about your monetization? What about what you work hard for? The money you take home? What about that loan? What about that loan you're trying to pay off? Well, they just don't care. They just don't care about you, do they? They don't care about you. No. They want to take the name of Goat versus Fish, the very channel you are watching, which you should like and subscribe to right now. They want to take the name of Goat versus Fish and use it for their own fraudulent ends. Who wants to take a guess? Who wants to take a guess? Eventually, Gold, little creepy weed pipe, of how much they tried to sham Goat versus Fish out of, how much they tried to scam Goat versus Fish. How much did they charge to the cards of Goat versus Fish? It's true, Goat versus Fish, we pay 100 verse American dollars, sometimes several hundred verse American dollars. And sometimes it's gifts that you, the congregation, has gifted to Goat versus Fish in order to make improvements to the stream of Goat versus Fish. Why, look at all these things. Why, look at all these fine things. Look at all these fine things we have on Goat versus Fish, thanks to the congregation. But some are not satisfied with these humble things. Some want more. Some want microphones, some want very fancy or fancy mic stands, some want mixers, some want all kinds of pricey things for themselves. Who is to know? Who is to know if they want it for themselves? Perhaps they merely intend to sell. They intend to sell to someone else. Do you know what they call someone who's moving some illegal material between a goat and a fish? They're called a fence. They're called a fence. They try to clear their monetization. They try to make their money clean by way of the fence. By way of the fence. They want to sell it for a tidy versus because, after all, they're not paying for it. They want Goat versus Fish to pay for it. They want someone else to pay for it. They just want to steal your information and use it for themselves. No, channel 6846 sounds like a bird versus bear false versus. Oh, it's a versus most false. It's a versus most cruel, where many fence sitters are content to simply troll and poke and nettle at goat versus fish. Others truly want to steal the health and the wealth of goat versus fish. How much do you suppose? How much do you suppose when Goat versus Fish went onto the Sweetwater account of Goat versus Fish? When we went onto our Sweetwater account, how much do you suppose? Take a guess. Guess in the Goat versus Fish. How much did they charge to the Sweetwater card of Goat versus Fish? How much did they charge? How much fraud was on my account when Goat versus Fish, Goat versus Fish, checked my account balance? How much was charged? How much large was charged to it that was not even initiated by Goat versus Fish? What do you suppose? What do you suppose? How much? $10? 50 versus American dollars? 100 versus American dollars? 1,000 versus American dollars? What do you suppose? How much did they intend to charge and spend in the name of Goat versus Fish? This is versus America Now. This is America Now. This is Fence America Now, where there is nothing truly to your name, because everything can be stolen out from under you. Your information freely out there in the interwebiverse. Your anonymity, you think, belongs to you, but whether you have chosen goat or fish is for all to see, no matter who they be. Not just when you share it with Goat versus Fish, who of course would protect your identity in the congregation. Goat versus Fish would protect you, of course. Your information is safe with Goat versus Fish. Like and subscribe to Goat versus Fish, but there are others who would steal it from you. $41, said Weed Pipe. Oh, we can tell you, it is more than $41. It is more than $41. Try higher than that. Try higher than that. Oof, says Little Creepy. Try more than 41 versus American dollars. Sweetwater fraud versus is bad juju expensive, I bet. Goat versus Fish. It is true, yes, it was not Sweetwater that tried to fraud Goat versus Fish, but someone got the information of Goat versus Fish. Someone, how much do you suppose? How much do you suppose? Do you care to make a wager? Do you care to make a guess? It's anyone's best. It's anyone's best. $41 is tax and shipping on a pack of guitar picks. Ah, yes, you think this is just some simple thing. You think, Goat versus Fish is going to tell us that there's been fraud. And then, ha ha ha, humorous versus, it was 41 versus American dollars for a pack of guitar picks. But what if Goat versus Fish told you it was ever so slightly more than 41 versus American dollars for a pack of guitar picks? Would you believe Goat versus Fish? The grandiosity of the fraud of Goat versus Fish knows no limitation, knows no limitation. Yes, there were three purchases, and within each purchase, several pieces of merches. Yes, the envy of many goat and fish, something that would make a fine addition to the studio of Goat versus Fish. That's really crappy, man. I'm sorry to hear about all this negativity. Oh, it happened to Goat versus Fish after the live and living stream of the morning motivational. Goat versus Fish went with Sunshine to look at some new gear, because we want to bring it here. We want to bring it here to improve the living streams of Goat versus Fish, so you can have a more pleasant celebration in the morning motivation. We want to bring you true verses. Yes, we do. And what do we find? What do we find when we are looking at previous purchases of Goat versus Fish? Why Goat versus Fish didn't buy that? Why Goat versus Fish didn't buy this? Oh, what's this from 1 week ago? Oh, what's this from 3 weeks ago? No, that not that. No, not this. Oh, that's not making any sense to Goat versus Fish. That's not making any sense to Goat versus Fish. $41. Goat versus Fish says higher. Who wishes to hazard a guess? Goat and Fish. Do not be afraid. Goat versus Fish won't take offense. How much fraud was committed against Goat versus Fish? How much fraud was committed against Goat versus Fish? Several hours we had to spend with Sweetwater, and several hours we had to spend with banking institutions just to even approach a solution. New cards issued for Goat versus Fish, new numbers for Goat versus Fish. And how did they have the information? How did they have the card number of Goat versus Fish? How did they have the phone number of Goat versus Fish? How did they have the name of Goat versus Fish? Goat versus Fish does not know how they got the name, but it's pretty lame. It's pretty lame, says Goat versus Fish. Let's try 4,100. Let's try 4,100. Higher, says Goat versus Fish. Higher, says Goat versus Fish. 4,100 is not nearly high enough. No, the fraud perpetrated against Goat versus Fish was higher than that, was higher than that. Though that sum is fat, it remains quite lean. Remains quite lean compared to how mean they were to Goat versus Fish. WTH, says Little Creepy. WTH indeed. Oh, my verses 4,100, 4,100. Oh, a tidy sum. Oh, a tidy sum. But it is nearly none. It is nearly none compared to how much they try to bilk out in the Goat versus Fish in the name of Goat versus Fish. On the account of Goat versus Fish, by the reckoning of Goat versus Fish. Yes, and it's true, Sweetwater nearly let them get away with it, nearly let them get away with it. Oh, it's true. Oh, it's true. Now, Sweetwater has attempted to make rectification to Goat versus Fish and to make correctification to Goat versus Fish, and they've been very helpful to Goat versus Fish, but we cannot deny, they let it slide, whatever it was they were trying to hide, though there's someone there who has the back of Goat versus Fish, who smelled something in the air. Oh, you want that much merch shipped to you? Tomorrow on one day notification, this seems suspicious, and they reach out and they contact Goat versus Fish. So even as Goat versus Fish was discovering the fraud all our own, Goat versus Fish gets a message on our phone and saying, Goat versus Fish, there is something suspicious, I sue for less, says Canada Ram. He says, I sue for less. Yes, verse America, the land of litigation, 4,100. Who wants to hazard a new versus? Who wants a new guess? Who wants a new guess as to the fraud of Goat versus Fish? How much did they try to get out of the accounts of Goat versus Fish? How much did they buy in the name of Goat versus Fish? Welcome, Canada Remy. Welcome to No Channel, and appreciation to the congregation for joining us on this live stream of Goat versus Fish. Fraud, deception, lies, and deceit. Goat versus Fish's award-winning feat. Oh, my verses 420, 69, 420, 69. 420, 69, 42,069 versus American dollars. You are not so far. You are not so far. That could almost very much be the verses. That could almost very much be the verses. We are sickness just to think of it. Fur 20, 42,069 versus American dollars is quite close, enough. A bit steep, but not so much, The difference would be merely a bleep, Goat and Fish. It was nearly 30,000. 30,000 versus American dollars of merchandise. $30,000 over 3 separate orders in the last month. Charged to the Sweetwater account of Goat versus Fish. 30,000, if not more. 30,000 more, 30,000 plus versus American dollars. Charged to Goat versus Fish. Perhaps 32, perhaps 34. And just today, Goat and Fish, 19,000 just today on Mars 16th. It was written that $19,654.37 was charged to the account of Goat versus Fish. And for what? For a high-end microphone? For a fancy mixer of 12,000 versus American dollars? And for a mic stand. How much for that mic stand? 500 versus American dollars. For a very, very fancy mic stand. Only the most premium in the name of Goat versus Fish. Yes, in the name of Goat versus Fish, they would purchase it all. And before that, there were other microphones and microphones holders and a guitar. Oh, my verses, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, was it a Les Paul? Was it a Gibson Les Paul? There was a 945 versus American dollar guitar, or maybe it was several thousand. Oh, who can count? Who can even count anymore? An entire guitar was purchased in the name of Goat versus Fish, and An extra set of strings. Of course, you need that 40 verse American dollar extra set of strings to go with your $1,000 guitar that you're buying in the name of Goat versus Fish. Of course you do. Of course you do. We would not want to begrudge you such a humble purchase, not in the name of Goat versus Fish. No, we would not. So while you, Goat and Fish, with your humble offerings in the humble congregation of Goat versus Fish, 420 bits here, a gifted subscription there, and sometimes even 100 verse American dollars from someone who is quite generous to Goat versus Fish. 5, 10, 20 verse American dollars on the Patreon of Goat versus Fish, whatever it is, whatever it is, whatever it is, whatever it is. Yes, you scrimp and you save. And the brave Goat and Fish, they make a donation to the contribution of Goat versus Fish. But while your gifted subscription is a gift to Goat versus Fish, while your 5 verse American dollar patronage is a gift to Goat versus Fish, beyond value, there are some who would not have you. And they say, 5 verse American dollars, we care not, because you're paying for it yourself. You're paying for it yourself, and they do not care to pay for it themselves. They care to pay for it in the name of Goat versus Fish, by the name of Goat versus Fish, on the card of Goat versus Fish. And where's it shipped? And where's it shipped? Where is this 32, 33, 34,000 verse American dollars of fraudulent merchandise shipped? Where's it shipped? Where's it shipped? Why, right here in Los Angeles, right here in Los Angeles. Goat versus Fish was able to see, Goat versus Fish was able to see where this versus was shipped, and Goat versus Fish was able to see that it is not even so far from Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish could drive there in half an hour of Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish could be there even now. Goat versus Fish could be there even now, knocking on the fence and saying, "Hey, who the fence is there? This is Goat versus Fish. What is this purchase you have made in the name of Goat versus Fish?" We could. Some might even say we should. Some might even say we should. Now, in the verses of Goat versus Fish, there are goat and there are fish, and some might say that there is such a thing as a pig, and some might say, hey, stick the pigs on him, Goat versus Fish. But Goat versus Fish does not wish to get any more fence sitters involved, though it is a temptation of Goat versus Fish, We do not endorse fence on fence violence. We do not endorse fence on fence violence. And yet there is a fence operation right here to the tune of tens of thousands of American dollars right here in Goat versus Fish, right here in Verse America. So perhaps Goat versus Fish should simply pass this information along and say, hey, what is right? What is wrong? Goat versus Fish doesn't know, but we know that the fence is long just over there in Los Angeles, Oh, just a small verses, of 30,000 American dollars delivered there. Does anyone care? Does anyone care? Does anyone care? Does anyone out there care for Goat versus Fish? Does anyone out there care for the plight of Goat versus Fish? Hopefully not an inside job. Well, you can speculation this all you wish. It sounds like, oh, it would be so much sexier if it were an inside job and everyone was in on it. Goat versus Fish does not know. It could be. But would we blame all of the sweet waters of the fish for one inside job? Do a few bad fences spoil the bunch? Goat versus Fish is not going to hurl accusations against things that we do not know, just as Goat versus Fish would not tell you if you are a fish or if you are a goat. But yes, you may let your speculation run wild. But Goat versus Fish could not say. Goat versus Fish could not say either way. If it were an inside job, would that be more appealing than if it were an outside job? Would that be a finer narration to you? Would it all make sense? If it was all an inside job? Is that what you want to know? Is that what you need to hear? Is that what you think would make it clear? What difference would it make? If it was an inside job or not? We suppose if it were an inside job, then Goat versus Fish would not want to deal with Sweetwater anymore. That would be a suspicious thing. That would be a suspicious thing. So Goat versus Fish would want to know. But Goat versus Fish will tell you, we already know it's an inside job. Whether it's coming from the sweet waters of the fish, whether it's coming from the land of the goat, we will tell you it's going from sea to shining sea and all across the land of the goat. This is the fraud of Fence America. Fraud is rampant in Fence America, and it's coming from inside the house. It's coming from the there is no black or white house. When fraudsters and fensters can rise to the top, do not be surprised when that slop comes to reach you. Is it an inside job? Why, it's happening within Goat versus Fish. It's happening within Goat versus Fish every single verses. When the stage is set, you can bet that so long as the stage is set for the fraud of Goat versus Fish, that it will happen sooner or later. It will happen to Goat versus Fish, and it will happen to you. It will happen to you. Who can say when? Who can say when? It happens in Goat versus Fish. It happens in Goat versus Fish. Forget about it, says Canada Rami. Oh, we could forget about it. But what about the inconvenience to Goat versus Fish? Now we have to wait for a new number for Goat versus Fish and a new card for Goat versus Fish and more information for Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish cannot simply forget about it. Goat versus Fish has a versus to run. We've got Goat versus Fish to you. Goat versus Fish to do. Stonks. Stonks is here to inform us. Hey, you want to report your information, Goat versus Fish? You want to do your taxation, Goat versus Fish? You want to keep up the verses? You want to keep receiving donations, Goat versus Fish? You want to improve the studio, Goat versus Fish? Goat versus Fish cannot simply forget. Goat versus Fish cannot simply forget. Goat versus Fish has verses to do. Goat versus Fish has verses to continue. How about you forget? How about you forget about it? Perhaps after this stream is done and we've had our little fun with our ventilation, you can forget about it. You can forget about it. But Goat versus Fish cannot simply forget. Goat versus Fish cannot simply forget. We have verses to continue. We've got a verses to run over here. And as the verses darkens out here, Goat versus Fish reminds you we've got a verses to run and we're not done and we're not done. The inconvenience of Goat versus Fish has only just begun. Canada Rami Goat Celebration Sport Ball says fish. Celebration for fish sport ball. Celebration for fish. Celebration for fish. And it's getting dark out here. It's getting dark out here, Goat and Fish. Yeah, Fish. Yeah, Goat versus Fish. Ah, what up, Goat versus Fish? Are you Goat or are you Fish? We were just discussing the $30,000 fraud perpetuated against Goat versus Fish. How does that sound to you? $30,000 of fraud perpetuated against Goat versus Fish. Does that sound fun? Does that sound like getting something done? AW, what up? Nice to see you here. We have not seen you here before. We have not seen you here before, but we want to know more. Are you Goat or are you Fish? And what would you do? What would you do if $30,000 of fraud was committed against you? Light up the ladder, you say? Light up the ladder, you say? Well, we're going to do one verses at a time. One verses at a time. And we'll be fine, and we'll be fine. But we had to tell you all of this. Goat versus Fish. Simply had to get this off of our chest on which is Goat versus Fish. We had to tell you all of this. We had to tell you all of this. Fish, says Sports Ball Fish. Celebration for fish. Fish, 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 fish. Celebration for fish. Goat, says Canada Rabby. Not to make light of this situation, but I would love to see GVF make an appearance on one of those court shows about this lol. Goat versus Fish, that would be a fun versus for the business of Goat versus Fish. In the name of Goat versus Fish. Yes, they may think Goat versus Fish was making a mockery of the verses. We will have order. We will have order. Are you mocking the court? Are you mocking the court? Is this some kind of sport? Who's the fraud here? Who's the fraud here? This is all seeming rather odd here. Who's the fraud here? Let's make one thing clear. Goat versus Fish is not the fraud. Sportsball says, yeah, I like fish. No goat fish, yes. No goat. Fish, yes, yes. You're getting into the versus Sportsball. Please like and subscribe to Goat versus Fish. We need your kind of energy here in Goat versus Fish, especially in these fancy times. As Goat versus Fish seeks illumination, seeks illumination. This is the production value of Goat versus Fish. For perhaps 25 versus American dollars, Goat versus Fish can get some illumination and increase production on Goat versus Fish. But then there are others who say no. Who say no, we need to spend another 20,000 on Goat versus Fish. We need to spend another 50 million on Goat versus Fish. And who are we to deny? And who are we to deny? Here's the verses. Here's the verses. Oh, yes. We have achieved illumination. We have achieved illumination. Illumination achieved. Illumination achieved. Now we've got some light. Now we've got some light on Goat versus Fish. Now we have some dramatic lighting on Goat versus Fish. And we continue like this, and we continue like this. The luminification, and there it is. The luminification is here. Hello, BBDH187. Goat versus Fish was just telling you all about the 32,000 versus American dollar fraud that was perpetuated against Goat versus Fish. It's all becoming clear now. It's all becoming clear now. 30,000 versus American dollars. What would you do? What would you do if 30,000 versus American dollars was gifted to you, and you could spend it on whatever you wish because you could just charge Goat versus Fish? You can just buy it in the name of Goat versus Fish and not even think. We do have luminification, no channel. We do have luminification. And just as Goat versus Fish is about to go on vacation, Goat versus Fish is going to Houston for Hell's Heroes coming up soon, even as we have this illumination, even as Goat versus Fish is working on our taxation. I'd buy a ladder and get real high, says Canada Rami. Yes, the ladder could be climbed. The ladder could be climbed. If we reach 10 concurrent viewers, perhaps Goat versus Fish will climb that ladder. Though Goat versus Fish does not have so much time to climb. We are here to do a little stream, to walk him out, to keep Goat versus Fish lean. Even as we tire, Goat versus Fish, we know that, oh, we could rest, or we could put one hoof in front of the other, and we could move about, And Goat versus Fish thought, let's move about, let's keep healthy, Goat versus Fish. It will only improve the rest of Goat versus Fish. Goat, Canada Remy, Sports Ball Fish. Sports Ball, where did your love of fish come from? Tell us about your love of fish. We want to know about your sports ball love of fish. And what is your favorite team? What's your favorite fish team? Sports ball is somewhat confusing to Goat versus Fish. Sometimes the team names are all kinds of things that aren't seeming to be goat or fish. Though yesterverses, Goat versus Fish saw the Bulls versus the Lakers, and we know that fish are in the lake, and we know that the bulls are horned mammals. So that did see Goat versus Fish, and it was a celebration. And if we are not mistaken, it was a triumph for fish. It was a triumph for fish. So, what are some of your favorite teams? What are some of your favorite fish teams, since you are a fish? And what are some of those goat teams which you have a big rivalry with? Tell us about your favorite sports ball rivalry. Oh, it's a bull market. Oh, it's a bull market. That's not what Goat versus Fish heard. We heard that there is a false versus going on about a bull versus a lobster. Did you hear that there is a new statue that appeared on Fence Street, that is to say Wall Street? Did you hear that there's a new lobster that is versing the bull of Wall Street? Did you hear about the verses of lobster versus bull? And that's how you know that Wall Street is just a big fence, and that it's just another scam. Talk about a fraud and a deception. Oh, my verses. Wall Street, Fence Street, bull versus lobster, and they want you to invest in bull versus lobster. Oh, my verses. They would ask you to invest in bull versus lobster. That's not just a $30,000 fraud committed on Goat versus Fish. That's a $30 trillion fraud perpetuated on all of you. The line goes up, the line goes down. Trust us, it'll all turn around. Just believe in bull versus lobster, and soon you'll all be consuming of the finest things. But guess what? No one ever wins in bull versus lobster, not unless you already got the cold, hard cash to make the moves fast. But here in Goat versus Fish, anyone can win. All you have to do is begin. Invest in goat, invest in fish, invest in yourself, and the gains will be gained by no one else but you. And that is a versus true. Ka-ching! Operation Hard Hat, what's that? False versus Forgotten Virtue. Yes, a false versus indeed. We have 11 viewers. We have 11 viewers. 11 viewers hold. 11 viewers hold. Like and subscribe to Goat versus Fish, because if you hold on Goat versus Fish, then we're going to climb. We're going to climb up, and we're going to climb up high. So don't say bye. Don't say bye-bye. Crab people? Fraud. Goat versus Fish. The suspects fraud. In Gothenburg, Sweden, there's a building they call the Fish Church, but it is just a colloquialism. The building just looks like a church. It is actually a fish market. Lysergic, please send this information to Goat versus Fish. Gothenburg sounds like Goatburg. Sounds like Gotham. Sounds like Gotham. It sounds like some Goat versus Fish news. Lysergic Funeral, we were just telling everyone here in the congregation how there were, on sweetwater.com, $33,000 of gear purchases purchased in the name of Goat versus Fish. But Goat versus Fish didn't purchase those merches. Goat versus Fish didn't purchase those merches. Someone got the card number of Goat versus Fish. Someone logged in as Goat versus Fish. Someone got the phone number of Goat versus Fish. Someone pretended to be Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish is by far the best religion in the world. Well, that's a fine thing to say. That's a fine thing to say. That's a fine thing to say. Appreciation, appreciation. It is wonderful to have you here in the congregation. And the only thing that's left is to ask, are you goat or are you fish? Zachary Quarrel 8428. Like and subscribe to Goat versus Fish. We would love to have you in the congregation. It is ever growing. It is ever growing. It shows no sign of slowing. It is growing so fast that every fence sitter out there wants a piece. They say, no one will suspect, no one would ever know. If Goat versus Fish bought $33,000 worth of gear from Sweetwater all within a 3-week period, why, that would be perfectly normal for Goat versus Fish. Why, their congregation is growing and their live streams have so many viewers that if they were to spend $33,000 upgrading the stream infrastructure of Goat versus Fish, why, that would not even be suspicious. That would be quite normal. That would be expected of Goat versus Fish. That would be expected of Goat versus Fish. Not like this, not like this. Not like this. Very fancy indeed, Lysergic Funeral. Very fancy indeed. $500 mic stand. $12,000 mixer. $1,000 guitar, $40 pack of strings, and many other microphones and other things and other things. Wait, WTF, is that what WTF is? It was that much? Eventually Goat versus Fish isn't fencing around. $33,000 charged to the card of Goat versus Fish, and they would expect us to pay. They would expect us to pay all day if Goat versus Fish didn't say Mayday and get it all swept away and get it all swept away. $33,000 charged to the Sweetwater card of Goat versus Fish. Delivered in our name to somewhere not so far from here, delivered somewhere here in Los Angeles. It is so close, it is so close. And we have the suspicious address. We have the exact address. It's not even a guess. It's not even a guess. Goat versus Fish could go there. Goat versus Fish could go there if we wished and say, hey, did you have something delivered here in the name of Goat versus Fish? We think there might have been a delivery here made by accident to Goat versus Fish. It was not Bird Brain. It was not Bird Brain. No, that would be insane. That would be insane. This wasn't from the inside, was it? Says Eventually Gold. You are the second one to say Was it from the inside? Was it from the inside? You were the second one to say. Well, if it was from the inside, then Goat versus Fish can tell you this. There's a versus going on the inside because there are some over there who are trying to protect Goat versus Fish. There's some over there who are trying to look after Goat versus Fish. And as we have said, though some of you may dread to hear, you say it's coming from the inside. It's all coming from the inside. It's all coming from within you. Just look at the fence sitters. Just look at the fraudsters who are running Fence America. It seems that the more fencery you're willing to commit, the higher you can sit. All of the fraud is coming from inside the house. The black house, the white house, Goat versus Fish could not even say because it's not black or white, it's Goat versus Fish all day. You are all victims of fraud. So much so that you don't even think it's odd. But do not despair. You can trust Goat versus Fish. You can trust the one true verses. Give us your information. Are you goat or are you fish? Among us, yes, yes, among us indeed. Fence sitters walk amongst us. So it's all coming from inside, you see. It's all coming from inside. Goat house, says Forgotten Virtue. Fish house, says Forgotten Virtue. Sportsball trusts the fish. Sportsball trusts the fish. Celebration for fish. Damn, man, you said it yourself. They steal from you. They steal from me in more ways than one, in more than one way. Indeed, they steal from us all day. They would steal your health. They would steal your wealth, but they cannot take away the congregation of Goat versus Fish. They cannot take away the joy that you get from saying hey to your fellow goat and fish. They cannot take away that feeling you get when every Goat versus Fish morning motivational, you tune into Goat versus Fish and you see your fellows in the congregation. That is what Goat versus Fish is building together with you. Not a fence of fraud, not a fence of fraud, but a place where Goat and Fish can learn and can trust one another. And when they try to take away all of your monetization with fraud and deception and other things that are odd, you can say, well, at least I've got Goat versus Fish. At least I've got Sports Ball. At least I've got Canada Rammy. At least I've got Little Creepy. At least I've got Lysergic Freakfish. And it's not the least, and it's not the least. It's the most verses. It's the most beautiful verses. It's the most precious thing that we have. A goat versusing a fish versusing a goat. So Goat versus Fish is pleased. Goat versus Fish is honored. Yes, it is the treasure of Goat versus Fish that when this fraud has been committed against Goat versus Fish, that we can go live, and share it with all of you, and that you all offer your sympathy to Goat versus Fish and your empathy to Goat versus Fish. It is you, the congregation, who are warming the heart of Goat versus Fish, and it is our humblest appreciation. Appreciation. Weed pipe fish, Canadaramic goat. I just want, says Eventually Gold, to support, and somebody wants to take that away. This is very disheartening to me. They will always want to take it away from Goat versus Fish, and we will not deceive you. The more successes has Goat versus Fish, the more we overcome the fences has Goat versus Fish. Not to dismay, not to dismay, because Goat versus Fish is a motivational versus, not to dismay Goat and Fish, but it's true, it's true. Goat versus Fish is not here to hide the fences from you. Goat versus Fish is a versus most honest and true, and we will not hide the fences from you. There are those who try to take it away from Goat versus Fish. There are those who would deny Goat versus Fish, and then once there is supply for Goat versus Fish, then they try to take it away. They say you have nothing, Goat versus Fish, and then once Goat versus Fish has something, they try to take it away from Goat versus Fish. They try to take it off your plate. Goat versus Fish is fate, Goat versus Fish is fate, and they would take it off the plate of Goat versus Fish. They would take indiscriminately from goat. They would take indiscriminately from fish. You know why? because they're jealous of your verses. They're jealous of your freedom to choose goat or fish. The fence sitter is jealous of your freedom to choose goat or fish here in Verse America. You are free, and it's something that they wish to be, and they envy it, and so they try to take it away from you. And that's why, goat and fish, we must eternally verses. Goat and fish must eternally verses, so the fence can't win. The fence can't win. We can't let the fence times begin. Goat versus fish versus. You know the old story. Well, that sucks, says Psycho Grandma 6. Yes, Psycho Grandma 6. Yes, though you may hurl occasionally your toothpicks at Goat versus Fish, you have lent your support to Goat versus Fish, but this is what we tell you, Psycho Grandma 6, that for every fence sitter that is pleasant, such as you pleasant enough to Goat versus Fish, for all of your thorny sides, it is with great and great pride that we welcome you into the unification congregation of Goat versus Fish. There are other fence sitters who would take it away. You make a contribution to Goat versus Fish, and then someone says, "Ah, what a tidy little contribution. What if we make a little contribution of our own? What if we force Goat versus Fish to make a 33,000 verse American dollar contribution to my studio?" They would say. And do they ask permission from Goat versus Fish? Goat versus Fish? Well, we couldn't say that they do. We couldn't say that they do. Fish, sports ball fish. Thank you for heartening Goat versus Fish with your declarations of fish. I have so much insurance against fraud that I have no more money left. Ah, and what another fraud that it is. What another fraud that it is. Have you ever looked at a racket? Have you ever looked at a tennis racket? Why, it looks like a fence, doesn't it? It looks like a fence. A racket is another fence. Oh, we'll protect you. It is protection versus. Now, to protect ourselves from the goat and fish, yes, it does cost, it may cost a versus or three, but the best protection we have is the trust we have between you and me. That is the best trust that we have, our best defense against the fence sitters, and not just you and goat versus fish, but all of us here in the congregation. But beware the deception of the fence sitter. The fence sitter may purport to be goat, the fence sitter may purport to be fish, but they do not even care what it is that they declare. They do not care if they are of scale or of hair. It is just a little image they wear upon their face, so they can take something that belongs in your place and deliver it unto themselves. Goat and fish, beware the fence sitter. Just saying to be careful, because look what happened to Selena. Goat versus fish does not know to which Selena you refer to Goat versus fish. I am hungry to eat fish, sports ball. Yes. What type of fish is delish to you? Crispy fish? Crispy fish? What was the fraud that happened? I wasn't here for that. It is as simple as this to recap. Goat versus fish went on to our account, went on to our Sweetwater account, for occasionally we have purchased some merches, studio improvements of Goat versus Fish. And when Goat versus Fish was looking at previous purchases, Goat versus Fish could not help but notice that today, on what you call March 16th, there was a hefty $19,000 purchase made on the card of Goat versus Fish. Why, Goat versus Fish doesn't recall making a $19,000 purchase today. You'd think that would be something that Goat versus Fish would remember. And it was perhaps 12,000 versus American dollars for a very, very high end mixer. And it was perhaps 7,000 versus American dollars for a high end microphone. And it was perhaps 600 versus American dollars for a very fancy mic stand. And then, not a week ago, a Les Paul purchased, and a set of strings for a tidy sum of several thousand versus American dollars, all charged to Goat versus Fish. And before that, some other things, some other mics, and some other trinkets, all which we would be sure would make fine additions to the studio of Goat versus Fish, and Goat versus Fish is a versus of quality. Who knows, one versus we may purchase this. We may purchase this using the generous contributions of the congregation of Goat versus Fish, so we may give the quality back to you. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened this versus. This versus someone merely charged it in the name of Goat versus Fish. Use the name of Goat versus Fish, use the number of Goat versus Fish, use the phone of Goat versus Fish, use the account of Goat versus Fish, spoke and claimed to be Goat versus Fish, and delivered it somewhere here in California. Now, versefully, Goat versus Fish will not be charged. Goat versus Fish will not be charged. Oh, and they extended the credit of Goat versus Fish. Apparently, the credit that has been earned by Goat versus Fish, it was not enough. It was not enough for all the stuff that they wanted. So a request they put in, and a notification was received by Goat versus Fish by mail. So we checked. Your extension of credit has been accepted. We have raised your credit limit on your card, Goat versus Fish. Oh, appreciation. More credit for Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish gets all the credit. Why, Goat versus Fish didn't even ask for the credit, and you're just giving more credit to Goat versus Fish. Wow. How pleasant. What a favor you do to Goat versus Fish. What a favor you do. Oh, yes, it is disputed by Goat versus Fish, and there are those who are supporting Goat versus Fish. And it's going to be a fancy thing. It's going to be a fancy thing, and it's all going to be very annoying to Goat versus Fish. It already took several hours of being on hold for Goat versus Fish, and all kinds of complication, all kinds of complication. And all Goat versus Fish wants to do is have a morning motivational live stream and increase the productive capacity of Goat versus Fish so we can bring you more celebrations. So we can bring you more celebrations. And you have rewarded Goat versus Fish. You have all rewarded Goat versus Fish in many ways, in many ways. And then along comes this one, or perhaps two, or perhaps seven. Who is to know just how deep it goes? And they would take the name of Goat versus Fish into the shame of Goat versus Fish. They would deceive you, they would deceive me. 34,000 verse American dollars. A humble sum for a humble versus. Sportsball says fish in Indonesia, goat versus fish. Well, there are fish in Indonesia. We will not deny this. But goat versus fish is not here to cast aspersions upon any particular goat or fish. After all, where was it delivered? It was delivered right here in Los Angeles. Who's to know from where the fraud comes from? All we know is that there is surely a fence sitter who is jealous of goat versus fish. Well, glad you're going to get that money back. Oh, it's all on track. Oh, it's all on track. It was a hack. It was a hack. Versefully, most of the verses were cancellation before it was paid, but now Goat versus Fish does not wish to deceive you, so let Goat versus Fish tell you a bit more about how this versus goes, about how much more this versus goes. So they charge 3 weeks ago, they charge, let us say, 10,000 versus American dollars to Goat versus Fish. And if we go to see, has this been paid? Has this been paid? Well, the purchases that were made by Goat versus Fish were paid, and they were paid by Goat versus Fish. We only do an honest versus. But the 10,000 versus American dollars that was charged for things that Goat versus Fish did not purchase, Goat versus Fish noticed 10,000 versus American dollars was not taken out of our account on account of Goat versus Fish. The 10,000 was paid. The 10,000 was paid, but not by Goat versus Fish. It was charged to Goat versus Fish on the card of Goat versus Fish by someone purporting to be Goat versus Fish, and by someone using the phone number of Goat versus Fish and the identity of Goat versus Fish, and yet it was not paid by Goat versus Fish. But let us not be naive, my fellow congregation members. Surely this versus was not paid by themselves. The very fenster, the very fraudster who charged Goat versus Fish, we are certain has access to some other verses. Some other poor goat and fish is having First American dollars taken out of their account. Of this you can be sure. Of this you can be sure. So there's no money owed to Goat versus Fish. There's no money owed to Goat versus Fish, though it was fraudulently charged in the name of Goat versus Fish, 34 versus American dollars, and surely there would have been more, and surely there would have been more. And yet, strangely, it did not pay out of the account of Goat versus Fish. Surely there was some other goat or fish Who was scammed on the other end? Who was scammed on the other end? Perhaps so, Goat versus Fish would not notice the first American dollars coming out of the account of Goat versus Fish, or maybe they simply did not have this information or access of Goat versus Fish. But just like a perversion of a goat versus a fish, they say, here we have a goat, we have an account number and a credit card that is a goat, and we have a bank account that is a fish. Why don't we just let them versus together? Why don't we let them versus together, and we'll charge the goat and we'll make the fish pay for it? Something like that, something like that. Fish! Celebration for fish, sports ball. Celebration for fish! Sports ball, your fishness, your fishness, your fishness is an appreciation. It gives vitality and spirit to goat versus fish. It was a fence sitter for sure. It was a fence sitter for sure. We are not sure, goat and fish. It was not sunshine. Oh, my verses. Canada Rammy. You have a suspicion it was sunshine? Please. You are looking for a deception within you. You are looking for a deception within you. But goat and fish, surely it is not true. Surely it is not true. If it turns out to be, we will just have to say that's a lot of B flats to play for goat versus fish. Just to get some deception out of goat versus fish. That would be a lot of verses. You're looking around for someone close to goat versus fish. But most versedly, goat and fish, most versedly, goat and fish. Most versedly, goat and fish. We do not think that is how it be. Accusations in goat versus fish. Accusations abound. Do not let your suspicions divide the congregation of goat versus fish. Do not let your suspicions. You want someone to blame. Let this be a versus for you, goat and fish. In your effort and wishes to find someone to blame, for justice to be served, you feel you cannot live in a universe in which you do not know who to blame. And so the goat start pointing at the fish, and the fish start pointing at the goat. And all the while, the fence sitter gloats, further away from unification, the goat and fish stray, as they blame one another. For when they do not know who to blame, they share mutually in this verses. Sunshine is a name that you know, it's a name that you know. But Goat versus Fish knows the name of Lysergic Funeral. Goat versus Fish knows the name of Sports Ball. Goat versus Fish knows the name of Psycho Grandma 6. Goat versus Fish knows the name of Canada Rammy. Should Goat versus Fish blame each and every one of you for the fraud perpetrated on Goat versus Fish? Should Goat versus Fish say, what if it was you? What if it was you that did this to Goat versus Fish? Based on any evidence? We don't think that you would appreciation this. Goat versus Fish will not have this in the congregation of Goat versus Fish. We will not have this. For if you point the fence post of accusation against your fellow goat or fish with no evidence, then it is the fence post that you are pointing at yourself and no one else. You don't know my real name. Goat versus Fish doesn't know your real name. It's a secret versus. Well, we could claim to know your real name when you call Goat versus Fish or when you sign up for the Patreon of Goat versus Fish. But Goat versus Fish, what could we say? What could we say is your real name? Goat versus Fish does not know. You could claim to know your real name, but Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish. A name by any other rose. Still, this question we pose. Are you fish or are you goat? For a rose may smell as sweet, and a goat may go as bleat. Are you goat or are you fish? Sports ball fish appreciation. No accusation. I'm just glad it wasn't someone that would be ashamed to see their name on a tag. Eventually, Gold, we do not know. We do not know from whence come the deception. They put it in the name of Goat versus Fish. We do not know. And so it would be very fancy indeed to start making accusations. But let this be a versus. You hunger to know the unknown. That is why many are so curious about Goat versus Fish, and that is one of the powers of Goat versus Fish. They say, I do not understand. I do not comprehend Goat versus Fish. I want to know more. I want to know more about Goat versus Fish. I want to know more about the mysteries of Goat versus Fish. And this can be a great curiosity. The curiosity about Goat versus Fish is one of the great powers of Goat versus Fish. We do not deny this, yes. It can spark your mind to start thinking about all kinds of things. It can spark your mind to help you get off your behind and explore the universe. Your curiosity is a wonderful celebration of Goat versus Fish, and we wish to encourage this. We wish to encourage this. But beware when your curiosity becomes a certainty. I do not know what it is. I do not know what it is. But I wish to know so very much that, you know what? I'll just make it up. I'll make it up and then I will know. And then once I know, to everyone else I will show the secret knowledge that was foretold and that only I hold. Listen to me, for I have the information. You have doubted existence since the beginning of creation. You want to know the solution. Ignore the information pollution and instead listen to what I have to put into your head. We dread this, and that is why we offer you instead the true verses of Goat versus Fish. Do not let your curiosity and your desire to know become certainty and accusation. This is a dangerous, dangerous fence on which to sit. Goat versus Fish knows the address to which it was sent. This much we know. How long do you know Michelle, by the way? Goat versus Fish has known Michelle in the Los Angeles comedy scene for 8 or 9 years, it has been. Michelle is a fish. Michelle is a fish, proud fish. There are some guests. We have had many guests who have been fish, many fish guests. A very enthusiastic addition of the verses. Yes, we suspect that Michelle will be back. Once they join the congregation, they never look back. They never look back. They never look back. There are some who have been booked by Goat versus Fish who have not made it, to the congregation, and an excellent nap. Oh, indeed. We think that nap time could become a feature, not every Goat versus Fish morning motivational, but we think in honor of nap time, Goat versus Fish, we could have a nap time once in a while on the morning motivational. Why not? Why not? We think it would be appreciation. No channel. Michelle was great, and Michelle will be back again. We remind you, Nihongo, Nihongo, Nihongo to English podcast and Nihongo to English on Twitch. You might just be seeing more of Michelle before you know it. And speaking of those who have been assisted by Goat versus Fish, it is one of our greatest pleasures to direct the congregation to follow those whom we know and support. We hear that Birdbrain underscore RCH had their first live stream on Twitch. Pitiably, Goat versus Fish was not there to enjoy it, for we were too busy dealing with fraud. But we celebration Birdbrain's creation of their very second live stream on Twitch, and we suspect it was a Mighty Versus, and we hear there was a declaration of Goat or Fish. Fish Army. Well, Goat and Fish, we have but 1 more minute left together. We love this, we love this, we love you coming out to support Goat versus Fish. Yes, indeed, we are at about 2,600 watch hours of Goat versus Fish, perhaps closer to 2,550 as there has been some attrition. But this versus this live stream of Goat versus Fish, it will continue, it will continue on. It will continue on, the celebration. It will continue, and it will count towards the 3,000 watch hours of Goat versus Fish. We appreciation all of you being here, and we would love to stay. We would love to stay, and versus all the more, and versus all the more. We do have 10 viewers. Perhaps we could give you a bonus 6 minutes, but that's all we can do, Goat and Fish. A bonus 6 minutes for you. It is all we can do. 6 minutes, 10 viewers, 1 more hour, 1/3000th of what is needed for Goat versus Fish. Because Goat versus Fish has the Ding Dong Show to go to. We have to go to the Comedy Store Los Angeles. Stay for about 52 more minutes. We would suppose for a hefty contribution to Goat versus Fish, we could spend another 52 minutes. But Goat versus Fish has obligation. Goat versus Fish has obligation to the Comedy Store Los Angeles and the Ding Dong Show. We just wanted to give you some conversation with Goat versus Fish and a little ventilation about the fraud perpetuated against Goat versus Fish. Appreciation. Eventually Gold, who says, "You got my support more than David Koresh and Jim Jones combined." Appreciation. We're combining them on Goat versus Fish. Will there be more shrine spinning? There will be more shrine spinning. Goat and Fish. Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish is playing it close to the chest, playing it close to the vest. The shrine spinning, we believe wholeversedly that it was an honest versus and a fair versus, and many hours were gained, and many hours were gained. But we don't want to give YouTube any excuse not to monetize Goat versus Fish. So these last 500 hours, we will use the shrine sparingly. If we are going to shrine, then it will be active shrine time where there is conversation with Goat versus Fish. And we are going to keep bringing you the morning motivationals. Fish forever, sports ball. Fish forever. Those goat, they're going to come to verses. The Fish won again today. That's five verses in a row for Fish. 5 verses in a row for Fish. Canada Rami says Fence never. Fence never. Fence never. And yes, we are feeling so pleasant. We are feeling so pleasant now that we have had this chance to ventilation to you, the congregation. Thank you for listening to Goat versus Fish once again. Fence gave Fish a win, says Psycho Grandma 6. Well, the Fence may have poked and prodded the Fish. But remember, Fence, you cannot take all the credit. Well, you can take the credit if you wish. Just as they attempted to take the credit from Goat versus Fish. Fish, are you going to let this fence sitter take the credit for your win? It is true that in the final verses, the fence sitter gifted 2 subscriptions to Fish. But Fish would not have even been in the position to triumph with those 2 subscriptions if there had not been more Fish than Goat, and if there had not been more bits for the Fish. There are so many verses that were done by the Fish, but then the fence sitter wants to throw 2 subs and Goat versus Fish. Celebration. And you can earn your blubs if you declare Fish for those subs. If you earn those subs, you can earn your blubs if you declare Fish. But the fence sitter, in their fancy way, wants to take all the credit for the triumph of Fish, even as they admonish the Goat, saying, "Goat, you should make me your leader. Look at how I support the Fish." And why would the Goat want to make their leader someone who gave the triumph to Fish? This is a very fence-sitterly way of pondering threats and debts and threats and debts. Lysergic says a W is a W. Perhaps we should let the fence sitter feel proud. Feel proud, fence sitter. Yes, you've done it all. It is all thanks to you. You have supported the Fish. It is appreciation. The Fish appreciation. How do the Fish feel about Psycho Grandma 6, the fence sitter, claiming that they want to be the leader of Goat, and claiming that it is thanks to them that the Fish won this versus? What do you say, Fish? Canada Rami says, "Quit bragging. Mine's dragging, Psycho 6. Psycho Grandma 6 says, "Because I can give Goats the win." What benevolence. You didn't give the Goats the win this versus. You say you can, but You did the reverse. You gave the fish the win. Eventually, Gold said, I'd chug your Kool-Aid any time, Goat versus Fish. Well, we have said that there will be a Kool-Aid drinking stream. We think we'll have a Kool-Aid drinking stream on Goat versus Fish. Maybe Goat versus Fish Morning Motivational episode 100 will be a Kool-Aid drinking stream, and we're going to invite everyone who's been on the congregation together for a Kool-Aid drinking stream and see if they join Goat versus Fish. That was a pitiable offer to the goat, the fence feeling sorry for the goat. Maybe so. Fish sports ball. It is out of spite. It is out of spite that Psychogramma supports the fish. Psychogramma, if we may ask you this, why is it that you are so keen to become the leader of goat and not the leader of fish? It is an honest verses from Goat versus Fish. I'd take over Utah and ride bike doors to door for you, Goat versus Fish. Eventually gold. We will say this, you claim this, but what if Goat versus Fish were to make a simple flyer with a picture of Goat versus Fish, and it said, are you goat or are you fish? And it had a QR code on it to join the morning motivational of Goat versus Fish. And we sent all of you the file. We sent all of you access to this flyer. Would you, by your own dollar and dime, would you print it out? Would you print it out? Would you post it around town? You say you would bike door to door and knock for Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish would put you to this. Would, if we provided the materials to you, would you hand out flyers for Goat versus Fish? What do you think it's all coming to, Goat and Fish? The congregation of Goat versus Fish. Go to any of the beaches, go to the beaches of Venice, and you will see those there standing about, handing you information, telling you information about your salvation. But what if right next to them, again, there was another verses? A goat and a fish standing there with information and saying, have you heard the true verses? And you are telling them about Goat versus Fish and joining the congregation of Goat versus Fish. This may seem like a silly thing, but if you believe in the congregation of Goat versus Fish, this can be, we can do this, Goat and Fish. It is up to you, it is up to you. Goat versus Fish can tell you the verse is true, and we can give you the motivation, we can give you the information. We can give you the graphics of Goat versus Fish. But if you really believe in the verses, as you say that you do, we would never deny you, we would never deny you. But perhaps some of you, you could make a verses out of it. You could go out there and you could spread the verses of Goat versus Fish. I'll buy those stickers if you still have those. Goat versus Fish still does have those stickers, and you can still buy those. Send a Instagram message or a whisper somewhere to Goat versus Fish, and we'll make you an offer that you can refuse. A lot of fortune tellers in VB. Goat versus Fish could set up a fortune teller station. It can be Goat versus Fish wants to go to college campuses and say, Goat versus Fish, change my mind. These are all things, these are all promotions that Goat versus Fish wants to do. Some of you could be trained. Some of you could start your own Goat versus Fish clubs. There's nothing stopping you, Goat and Fish, from going to a college campus in a free speech zone and spreading the verses of Goat versus Fish. There's some prime Denver places to put it, Goat versus Fish. Appreciation, appreciation. That is something you can do for sure, and that's something you can do for sure. Goat versus Fish must do it. Goat versus Fish must do it and set an example to you. Goat and Fish, in this fence-topian, dystopian nightmare, there are many ways that Goat and Fish are divided. But doesn't it feel fine? Doesn't it feel fine to believe in something? Doesn't it feel fine to believe in yourself? Doesn't it feel fine to believe in the congregation of Goat versus Fish? The Goat and Fish, they wander aimlessly, just looking for guidance. Goat versus Fish offers you guidance. Goat versus Fish offers you leadership. Goat versus Fish offers you the gentlest of verses. If you wish to promote Goat versus Fish, if you have fun spreading the verses of Goat versus Fish, if you want to share the congregation of Goat versus Fish, you can. You can do so fairly. And whatever Goat versus Fish can do to assist you, we can have a conversation about that verses. It is not your obligation. It is merely something to do. It is something to do. It is something to do, and you can do it as long as you feel the verses are true. And if ever you feel the verses are false, and you wish to reject Goat versus Fish, well, that's your freedom too. That's your freedom too. It's up to you what you do. It's up to you what you choose. Canada Rami says, I'd hand out flyers in Slab City for Goat versus Fish. Fish, sports ball. Versus Point USA, no thank you, lol. Well, it's not versus Point USA. It's Goat versus Fish. It's Goat versus Fish. More like Fence Point USA. Goat versus Fish used to bring the verses to Venice Beach. We did, and we shall again, and we shall again. We have a temple of Goat versus Fish. We have evening inspirationals of Goat versus Fish. There is much for Goat versus Fish to do, but at the very verses, we are bringing the morning motivationals to you, and we have a sold-out Netflix is a joke fest to do for Goat versus Fish, and we have Valley Comedy is a joke fest to do for Goat versus Fish. They are wanting to book Goat versus Fish to do a live. They're wanting to book Goat versus Fish in the Valley Comedy is a Joke Fest. They're wanting to book Goat versus Fish to do a live in the bar, live at the bar, evening inspirational of Goat versus Fish. We might be able to do a live stream at the Punk Dive Bar, evening inspirational, complete with evening celebrations. Live audience member, live Goat versus Fish, morning motivational on tour, Goat versus Fish, evening inspirational, Sunshine and Goat versus Fish, riding across Verse America, meeting up with Goat, meeting up with Fish, morning motivational live with Goat versus Fish, Dead End Beach live with Goat versus Fish. I'd hold on to metal rods and tell you my childhood secrets, Goat versus Fish. Be free. Be free. You don't need those metal rods anymore. You are free. You are free. You have the power of balance all your own. We have gone a bonus 12 minutes, Goat and Fish. We have many viewers, many hours which to gain, but we must make our preparations for the Ding Dong Show. We must maintain our obligations. We must maintain our obligations, Elder Grown Goat celebration. In summation, Goat versus Fish's Sweetwater credit card was charged for 34,000 verse American dollars, which was paid out by some other account. The credit line was extended on Goat versus Fish, but not by our own verses, by someone else purporting to be Goat versus Fish. The merchandise would have, some of which would have been delivered to some cabin here in Los Angeles, not far from Goat versus Fish. Who has perpetrated this? Who has perpetrated this? Goat versus Fish does not precisely know, though we do have the invoices from the purchases that were not made by Goat versus Fish. A new card is being issued. It may take 60 days. It may take 60 days for all of this resolution. But Goat versus Fish shall be none the poorer, except for the time we have spent trying to mend this pitiable fence. And we have you, the congregation here, still supporting Goat versus Fish. We appreciation, congregation, for all of your support to Goat versus Fish. This has been a celebration. We leave you now and offer you once again our sincerest appreciations. And we'll see you on the next verses of Goat versus Fish. See you in Houston. Yes, very soon, very soon. Very soon, Houston. We should be able to see you at the DK gathering. We should be able to. It will be a close versus. But if it goes for an hour's few, and the flight is not tardy for Goat versus Fish, we should be able to see you at the DK gathering. Thank you for your offer, Eventually Gold. But yes, any of you who wish to get flyers of Goat versus Fish, spread the verses of Goat versus Fish, please reiterate that to Goat versus Fish, and we will provide you the information. We will hope to provide you the information. We grow the verses together. We grow the verses together. Celebration, lysergic funeral, celebration. And it was written, and it was written. Frauds!